manchild typically refers to an adult man who exhibits immature behavior, often characterized by a lack of responsibility and over-reliance on others for emotional or practical support. And let's be real, nobody's got time for boys who don't want to grow up, okay? That is not what we're here for in this dating game. So, in this edition of Dating I Do's and Don'ts, we asked certified matchmaker Katy Clark to share how to spot a manchild and actually how to avoid dating them and getting swept up in it, because you can easily let that happen. Good morning.
Good morning. We want to make sure we're avoiding it before we get the ring on it.
Okay, listen, because it's a lot harder to get rid of them after you got the ring. So, tell me, this subject was inspired by a recent study from Hilly that found 55% of Gen Z women have dated a man-child, and a whopping 78% would not do it again. Why do you think so many women have fallen into the trap of dating a man-child and then realizing it afterward?
Well, let's be honest. They could be fun. They're good-looking. They're the life of the party. They're charming. And nobody wants to date the boring guy.
Nobody wants to date the boring guy.
You jump in because you're excited because you found the one. Without doing the research.
Exactly. Now, are there any early red flags or behaviors that we should be on the lookout for, especially in those first few dates?
Absolutely. And your first 3 dates are essential. You've got to ask the harder questions. You've got to ask about their job history. How much effort are they putting into it? You've got to ask about their friend group. You've got to ask about their hobbies. Are they video gamers? Are they spending it with the wrong people? Are they doing, you know, maybe they're doing a lot of the dress up stuff, and that's not something you want to build a life with sometimes. So ask the hard questions.
So make sure that we also are finding people who are maybe interested in the same things as us, right? You know, you mentioned hobbies and activities. So if you want your man to be at the golf course while you're at home, then maybe you should go to the golf course where he is.
That's a great place to go to find a man.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so can you give us an example of a man-child moment that may even seem harmless at first, right, but actually points to bigger issues later?
Well, this happens a lot. I hear my followers saying this one, that their friend caught the guy they're dating on a dating app still. And he will justify it and say, well, I forgot I was on it. And then the only thing he'll say is, I'm sorry. There'll be no, you know, they won't try to rectify it. They won't try to make it right with you. They won't show you that they've gotten off. So there's this lack of trust now, and he just doesn't seem to care about it.
You know what? I always feel like one thing about a man knows what he wants, you know, or whatever. So I feel like if they're teeter-tottering, or you feel like, oh, does he like me? Does he not like me? Then he doesn't like you. It's just as simple as that.
Don't let your heart be in that position.
Exactly.
It's not good for the cortisol levels.
It's not. Okay, because you're not going to raise my blood pressure in 2025. You will not. Now, how does a man-child differ from someone who's just maybe going through a rough patch, or maybe they're still figuring out adulthood? Also, my answer to that, though, is if you don't have it figured out, then you shouldn't be dating. But let's hear from you.
I would agree that you're dating with a limitation, and you shouldn't be. You should have your stuff in order, because you're going to attract what you are. But for the men who are kind of processing, a lot of men post-divorce are processing. For example, they might be living in an apartment, and a woman would judge that like, oh, he's a man-child. Well, he's actually doing that because he's being frugal with his finances, or he's waiting to meet the right woman. So there are instances where it's actually quite smart that a man might be living in a way, but you got to get the intel. You got to meet his friends, meet the neighbors, get as much intel as you can into their lifestyle, because if it's continual, that is what you want to avoid.
What do you think a man's friend says about him? Like birds of a feather flock together type of situation?
Absolutely. My mom used to say, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you what you are.
So if you don't like his friends, it's an issue. Now, for people who are already in a relationship and may suspect that they're dating a man-child, if you're already stuck in the position, what advice would you have for them? Should they try and work it out? Should they end it? What if they're in a 30-year marriage and they're just realizing it? Like, what do you do?
Well, the number one thing is know your standards personally. So if you are dating, you should have your set standards. And with that, have a kind conversation and express those to that person, and then have a quiet number of how long you're going to wait to see if they can play it out. Don't say it to them, because you don't want to put that pressure, but know that you have to be able to be okay with the idea that if they never change, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is the main question.
Truth.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is good. I like this conversation. What do you think? What role does emotional maturity play in as far as finding a potential partner? How high should it be on the list?
You know, they call this EQ right now, emotional quotient. It is so important. Being equally yoked with someone is key to flourishing and thriving. So I would say this, it's like if you feel like that person is riding a tricycle and you're on a speed bike, it's not going to work. It's not going to flow well.
And sometimes you got to make the hard decision. Hopefully you don't have to, though. But if you do, here's your sign to do it. Tell me, where can people find you?
People can find me at Dating with Katy, and that's Katy, or Cinque.com, CINQE.
There we go. Katy, thank you so much for being here.